Welcome to our introductory course for arpeggios. Today we're going to learn some major and minor arpeggio shapes, but before we do that, it's important that we understand what an arpeggio actually is. So here's what an arpeggio is. If we take any chord like an A major, a D major, or even the minor chords like D minor or A minor, those chords are all built from a specific set number of notes. For example, they each have 3 notes. In a D major chord, we have 3 notes. We have a D, an F sharp, and an A. So if we wanted to play a D major arpeggio, we would just find a D, an F sharp, and an A note and just play those only. Now we can hold the D chord and arpeggiate it like this, but we're not really interested in that type of arpeggio. We're interested in isolated note arpeggios. And we have them all over the neck. Anywhere there's a D, F sharp, and A, which is everywhere, that is a D major arpeggio shape for us. So why do we want to learn arpeggios? Well, arpeggios allow us to harmonize with the rhythm chords really well. In fact, it's very important that you do this. And if you analyze some very famous guitar solos, they do this whether they know it or not. A good one I like to always point out is Solids of Swing. There's a ton of arpeggios in that song, and they always match up perfectly with what chord is happening at one time. Hotel California, there's arpeggios. I mean, Sweet Child of Mine, there's arpeggios. There's literally arpeggios in every song, every single style, and you probably haven't realized it. So going through this exercise and learning these patterns and learning more about arpeggios, you'll not only learn to recognize when they're being used, you'll also be able to make your improvising much more effective and melodic. Let's learn some shapes. Okay, so this D major shape is our first arpeggio major shape that we're going to learn across 3 strings. In this position, it's a D major, but we can move it to other positions. And the best way to do that is to keep it simple. So we know that this is a D major. Well, what if we take it and move it up by 1 fret? Well, then we know it's a D sharp major. Okay, what if we move it again? We know that this is E major. So now we have an E major arpeggio. What if we move it up again? We end up with F major arpeggio. Again, F sharp major, G major, G sharp, A major, B major, C major, and then we're back to D major again. So we can use that major shape, that D chord major shape, move it around, and we can get other major chords. Okay. Another good thing to learn is the where the root note is in the shape. It's right here. That's where the D note is. So you may have been playing most of your chords where the root note's on the very bottom of the chord. In this shape, which counts as technically an inversion, it's actually right here on the B string 3rd fret. Same thing with this E major. E, the E note is there. Oh, F right here. G major here. So it's always going to be on the B string. It's important to know that so that you can properly resolve your riffs. Okay, let's move on to another shape. There's actually 3 shapes that we can use to give us D major across. So if I just stick with D major, and by the way, the notes of D major are D, F sharp, and A. In this case, it's an A, D, and an F sharp. So wherever I find those 3 notes on the guitar is going to be a D major arpeggio. And we're going to look for the combinations of those 3 notes on the E, A, and B string. So the next combination of those 3 notes occurs here. So here we have D, we have F sharp, and then we have A. So this is another D major arpeggio shape. So again, make sure you isolate them and practice playing it. I recommend ring, pinky, index. You could also use middle, ring, index depending on what you're doing, but I would say ring, pinky, index is a better solution. Again, this shape could be moved into other chords. Here's our D note. Well, if we move it up by 2, we have E major arpeggio, F major, G major, A major, and and so on. Okay, so now we have for D major, we have this D major chord. Here's another one. Here's the last one. Okay, so there's another major shape that we're going to learn. In this shape, here we have F sharp, we have A, and then we have a D at the bottom. Of course, we can move this anywhere we want. And this shape's easy to find because it's really just the bottom of a full bar chord. And this is a D major bar chord that I'm playing here. So anywhere that you know bar chord, if you know where A major is, right here on the 5th fret, well, we can just use the bottom of that, and that's our A major arpeggio. So again, our 3 arpeggio shapes for the same chord and same chord type. We can even go an octave higher. So we go back to shape number 1, but an octave higher. Shape number 2, but an octave higher. And we don't have enough fret room to go to shape number 3.